Start recording. All right, we're going to go to this. All right, you're going to hear about 10 seconds of silence, and then I'm going to start talking.
Sounds good.
Cool. Really quick, what I'm going to do is I'd like to do what I did last year where you give the little tidbits of the teams in between, but if you could, just try and keep it to about 20 seconds.
Yeah, I'll go quick.
Okay, I'm going to try my best too. All right, let's try this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2016 USAFL National Championship Seeding Spectacular. I'm Brian Barrish from USAFL.com. It has been a wonderfully long 6 months of football as Aussie Rules football has been played across the country in all sorts of weather after many miles of training and games and all of that other stuff. We are here to see who is going to need to go through whom if they want to lift a cup at the end of the weekend at the 2016 USAFL National Championships played in Sarasota, Florida, in Lakewood Ranch, Florida, to be specific, not far from Sarasota. Joining me, as he did last year, to give his thoughts, and he's the only person I think who has traveled more miles than anybody else in the USAFL. Tom Ellis, the head coach of the USAFL, the USA Revolution national team. Tom, thanks for joining us again this year.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. It was one of the funnest years I've had with football. I went all over the place and saw a lot of games, so super excited to see who's going to be going against who.
And the great thing is, I think we can actually hear you this year.
Or is it? I don't know.
If they can hear me, they can hear you, so that's it. We're going to be on, hopefully, until about 9:30 Eastern Time, so we're going to try and make this quick and painless for everybody. What we're going to do is, as we go on with the announcements, we're going to be showing the previous divisions at the bottom of the screen, so anyone who happens to come in late can check out what's going on. And also the other thing is, if anybody has any questions or anything, if any of Tom or I about the tournament, you can leave it in the comments, and we'll try and answer them between now and the end of the show. Tommy, just some brief thoughts on this season. It definitely looked like there were a lot of competitive games this year, and I know you were going around watching this national team, really for the national team, but you said it yourself, the quality of play overall has really, really gone up over the years, and it seems to have continued this year.
Yeah, for sure. It was good to see. You know, it depends on how people travel, but most clubs that traveled still played very, very well at a high level. You look at Indy, there were some really good games out there, and then on the west side, there were some really, really good games out there. And teams seemed to travel pretty well, so that was really encouraging.
It was, and that's, I think, the best part. We saw a lot of teams increase their numbers, and a couple of teams perhaps have a little bit of a let-off this year. Orange County comes to mind. There are a couple of other ones, but looking at Seattle and San Diego, among others, they've done really well in growing the numbers. We'll see where they fall in the seeding. So pull up a chair. We're about to get started. First of all, just the seeding criteria, the selection of not only the divisions but the seedings themselves. A number of different criteria were used by the USAFL Tournament Committee, including season record, of course, past performances in nationals, as well as the USAFL Top 20 rankings that have been kept all season long, and club preference was taken into consideration. as well. A lot of situations where teams can only bring a certain amount of numbers, they've opted to play in a lower division as opposed to a higher division. So all of those have gone into what you are about to see. Also worth mentioning, as we mentioned earlier, these are just the 4 men's divisions. The women's divisions, the women's format will be announced in the coming days. We hope to make an announcement. We plan to do one of these as well with the women's division. So we'll have more announcements on that as we go. Now, so just quick refresher for the tournament format. Divisions 1, 2, and 3 will have 8 teams total. Division 4, by the way, will have 9 teams. That will have a slightly different format. But Division 1, 2, and 3, they'll play 2 pools of 4 teams each. They'll each play 3 2-by-20-minute games, and the winners of each of the pools will face off in the grand final. Ties, as always, broken by percentage. All right, Tommy, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right, here we go. We begin with Division 1, Pool A. Tommy, do you have any guess who the overall number 1 seed is?
Could be from my home state of Texas down near Austin.
That would be absolutely correct. The Austin Crows, the number 1 overall seed, they're the top seed here in Pool A. An unbelievable 14-0 record. They are the defending Division 1 champions. They have won 2 of the last 3. They've won 3 national championships, including the Division 2 Grand Final, rather Division 3 Grand Final in 2011. But all of those have been in Austin. They've been in Grand Finals 6 of the past 8 years. The 2-time defending Division 1 Central Regional champs, and of course Benny Carpenter from the product of Montrose, and a couple of guys you're familiar with, Harley Nussman as well as Christian Merritt. This is a very good team, Tom, and I think this is better than the team that won last year.
Yeah, and they keep getting better. I mean, they looked really good when I saw them down there playing against the Revolution. I went down and watched them play against Denver, and they're solid. They just had another good weekend up in Dallas. If they travel well, which I assume they will, they're going to be very tough.
A little bit of a spoiler alert, they are bringing 2 teams. We'll see where their B team lands in just a minute. The second seed in Pool A, the Los Angeles Dragons, they were the second seed in Pool A last year. As you'll recall, they went 0-3, but this is a more polished LA team, I think. A record of 12-2 this year. They lost to Austin last year. A very good effort, but lost on Sunday morning. They'll face them again on Sunday morning here. They enter with a 4-game winning streak. Justin Hall, Justin Kenna, and Gary Green, some very good Australian players, but there's a couple of really good Americans here, Tom, led by, of course, the Big Rock Donald Lee, and another one I'm impressed with is Gabriel Martin Del Campo.
Yeah, he just came to Denver, to the Denver camp, and for a kid that's only been playing a few years, he's got that rugby background. Very, very tough kid. Looking forward to seeing him play.
And, of course, he has one of my favorite names in all of the USAFL. The third seed in the Pool A is the Denver Bulldogs, team that Tom Ellis is very familiar with. They are, of course, the 8-time national Division I champions. They have not made it to a grand final since 2011. They were very busy at the regionals. They went 1-1-1 at the Centrals, 1-2 at Westerns. They've lost to Austin this year, 42-38 in a close game, and lost to LA in a very close game, 22-21. They went 2-1 last year at nationals, and again, a mixture of a lot of Aussie players, Casey Robertson and Tom Harkness among them, some high flyers, but also some good Americans, and Peter Taylor, a good young defensive player, their Rock Adam Wolfsvis, and of course, one of the best known names in the USAFL, and Andy Vanica.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've been around them a long, long time. They'll go down there probably with a chip on their shoulder, being selected third on that side, and coming out of elevation down to sea level. We'll see how they go, but it's going to be that's a pretty tough little pool so far.
Well, here's the wild card. The 4th seed in Pool A, making their Division I debut, the Division II national champions from last year, the Quebec Saints. They only played one USAFL opponent. That was a loss at home to Boston earlier this season, but they have a number of Canadian national team players that I know, Tom, you're very familiar with, among them Bogdan Rotaro, Morgan White, and Ronan Shaughnessy. I have to think that they're kind of a dark horse. I guess they're a little bit of a dark horse, but a little bit of a dark horse in this, you would think.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Vancouver back in 2008. They just kind of showed up. Nobody knew anything about them. They came in and won it. So definitely could be a dark horse. This
is only their 3rd appearance in the USAFL Nationals. They were okay in Division II. I don't. A couple of years ago, I don't think anyone expected them. They came from actually the 8th seed in their group last year in Division 2 and 1, beating Sacramento 27-0. So Austin, LA, Denver, and Quebec are Pool A. We move to Pool B now. Top seed is the New York Magpies. The Pies had a little bit of a rough go last year. They were in transition, but under Sean Holmesby went 7-2. Their only 2 losses of the season came this past weekend against Austin and Dallas. Of course, Division I champions in 2010 and 2014. 1-2 last year at Nationals. Mike Murphy, Toby Carrington, and a host of other players. They're another very good mix of Aussies and Americans, Tom.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see Dan Lehane play. He came back from Australia this year, so that'll be really good to see him back on U.S. soil nationals. I don't take too much into account of the Dallas trip. That's it's asking a lot to travel to Dallas and going to Florida right after that. So we'll see how they travel to Florida, but I expect them to be very, very tough. I
didn't realize how tall Danny got till when I saw him last. He is a tall drink of water. Which it's funny when you see him having played at the age of 16, how big he's gotten. The second seed in Pool B are the Golden Gate Roos. Now, the Roos I always call a little bit of an enigma because they always play that Metro season, and then they come together. I'll tell you what, in the games that I've seen them play, they have looked more focused and I think more coherent. They went 4-0. Overall, they'll play Sacramento in the final game of their season on Saturday. They were the Division I Western Regional champs, had a great 3-0 run, looking for their first grand final since 2005. They, of course, were Division I runners-up in 98 and 99, and there's a host of really good American players here. Brian Dragas, Zach Taylor, Kyle Johnson, Timmy Lindfelt. I said at the outset of the season, Tommy, this might be their year.
Yeah, I've always looked at Golden Gate as a team that could win it. But this year, I've seen so many good Americans out of that team. We'll see how they travel. That's another part of this whole thing. It's a big ask. You're going from San Francisco all the way to Florida. Let's see how they travel, but if they travel with their top squad, they're going to be very, very dangerous.
I think they're bringing good side. They also have reserves as well that you'll see a little bit later on. The third seed in Division I in Pool B is the Orange County Bombers. The Bombers, a little bit of an off year for them. They lost a number of their stalwarts during the season. Including Lockie Agars, 3-8 record. They have one more game against Los Angeles. They are the 2-time Division I runners-up. They had started the year with 6 straight losses. However, some good players on this team: Kelson Musto, Adam Shanks, Chris Angus, Gareth Allen, and of course their coach Chris Brown. Again, we're looking at a team coming from West Coast to all the way to the East Coast, Tom. But this is going to be a big ask for them to make it 3 in a row, I think.
Yeah, it's tough, but I mean they've got a really good core group of guys. If they get some of the Australians back that they were missing, I mean you still got Tyler Mounts in there, who's a really, really good player.
Yes.
They definitely could be a dark horse on that side, but they definitely had a down year with their traveling, not as strong.
All right, and rounding out Pool B, the 4th seed, the Dallas Magpies. The Magpies just hanging on to, they're the 7th overall seed, but the 4th in this group. They had a record of 6-6-1, and they've really wanted to prove themselves over the last year. They went 0-3 at Nationals last year, including a loss to New York. They've played the New York Magpies at Nationals each of the last 2 years since coming back from that year off in 2013. Matt Taggart, Bren Miller, Jack Odell, among others for this Dallas team. Tommy, what do you think they have to do to win this group?
It's going to be tough. I mean, that's a tough ask. You got the Magpies and the Roos, you got the Bombers experience, but they're still a really good team. You've got some really tall, tough guys on that squad, and you've got some experience. So it's going to be a tough ask. But you got to win all 3 games, and if you can just knock somebody off and make everybody go 2-1, then it goes percentage. So they definitely, they can sneak up on somebody if they're not paying attention.
Yeah, and they're going to be a very tough team, very tough side, as they always have been going back over the last few seasons. So here a look at the 8 teams, again in Pool A: Austin, LA, Denver, and Quebec. And in Pool B, New York, Golden Gate, Orange County, and Dallas. Last year, Tom, we looked at the 8 teams that were in this group, and we thought that both winners were going to end up having to go 2-1 to win, but it's I think I don't think, and of course we were both wrong. Both teams were 3-0, but I would have to say that your favorites would have to be the top 2 in each of those pools.
Yeah, right now for sure. I mean, looking at these pools, but I wouldn't count out Golden Gate for sure, just from what I've seen this year, especially at the Western, how strong they were. Los Angeles could definitely play with those boys, so it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. I mean, you've also got Denver sitting in there that could be a dark horse. They're the only team in this group that's never not played in Division I.
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to be fun. I can't wait to see it.
For those of you who are Premier League soccer fans, I think Denver is the Everton of Division I at Nationals in the USAFL. They're always in Division I, and they always sort of knock around in the middle there, but they're always, they have been at the top previously. So that's Division I. Let's move on to Division II, and as we mentioned, for those of you who are coming in who may have missed Division I, there it is at the bottom. So we begin with Pool A, and we begin with the team that lost in the Division II National Championship game last year, the Sacramento Suns. The Suns under Matt Bishop, they are looking to make their 4th consecutive grand final. They were Division III winners back in 2014 against the Hawks. They are the Division II champions at the Western Regionals this year. Saleh Taibji, Sham Sangara, Ramesh Balrand, and their big ruck, Ed Manning. This may be one of the best teams that Sacramento's put out in some time, Tom.
Yeah, it's no surprise. They're a real good squad. They play very, very well. They're one of those teams that they just don't have any Australians. And if you threw some Australians in the mix with them that had more like you do some of these other teams, they'd be right in the mix of Division I. They have really, really good Americans. So it's no surprise.
What if we just clone Matt Bishop?
You're going to need about 6 to nullify some of the other guys. But that's the good thing with those guys. A lot of those Americans are playing right up to the same level as the Aussies, so it's really, really good. Second
seed in Pool A is the Houston Lone Stars. They defeated Sacramento in the Division III Grand Final back in 2013. Of course, that's some controversial circumstances, but Houston having one of their best years, I think, in recent memory. Even that championship year, they went 3-0 in the Central Regional Division II, and they have Trig Allen, Matt Stevens, among others. A very good side, and also, as we've said it a couple of times, but they've got some good Aussies, but some good American players coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're another one of those teams that has 4, 5, 6 Americans trying out for the Revolution squad. Some of those guys are going to get named to that top 60 out of that Houston squad.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, and one of the things, too, is that club is one of the clubs that really took a hold of the Kick Builders program, so it'll be interesting to see how they do with that, see how that's progressed for them.
Third seed in Pool A are the Columbus Jackaroos. The Jacks Division II Grand Final winners in 2013. Clyde Simpson, of course, the Stork, Mark McClure. This is a team that was well-traveled this year. They went 0-3 in the Central Regional Division Is, but they played 3 very good games. They stood up to Austin. They almost beat Dallas, and then they went and played well against Boston and went down against New York. They were undermanned, but did pretty well. This is another team like Sacramento. It's mostly Americans.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at them, there's I don't even know if they have any Australians.
I think they have 2, and I'm sure they'll correct me on that.
But they play very, very well. They're very hard at it. It's one of those teams you don't want to play too often because you're going to come off in pain.
And finally, the final team, the 8th seed overall and the 4th seed in Pool A, jumping up 2 divisions, the Baltimore Washington Eagles. This is one of those teams that have had a resurgence over the last couple of years. I was going to say they were, of course, Division I runners-up all the way back in 2008. And 2007, I believe they were Division II winners. And of course, they've got Jay Levesque, the old veteran, Tracy Williams, who is, I believe, one of the better ruck, and he's really developed himself with that rugby background. It's great to see the Eagles, a perennial power in the East, back up in Division II.
Yeah, it's good to see. You've got a bunch of Americans on that team also looking for the Revolution. Baltimore actually finished second at Nationals back in 2008 in the up in Colorado Springs, and then so it's good to see them back and at a decent level.
Danny Seo, the former Collingwood player, also on that team. Kit Drury and a couple of other players as well. So Sacramento, Houston, Columbus, and Baltimore, Washington in Pool A. In Pool B, the top seed of the Calgary Kangaroos dropping down from Division 1 to Division 2. I think the numbers has a lot to do with that. Led by Lachlan Griffiths, who was also the head of AFL Canada. They were Division 2 champions back in 2010 and, of course, lost to Denver in 2011. Again, always a mystery with this team, especially since they don't play USAFL, but they've got some Northwind talent on their Tommy, and they're very dangerous.
Yeah, again, you've got a lot of Aussies up there that nobody knows anything about, so we'll see how they come in. Kind of surprised they dropped to Division 2, as good as the team they are, but it'll be good to have them back.
Second seed in Pool B, the Boston Demons. The D's went 1-1 in the Eastern Regionals this year. Had a couple of key road victories, including a big win, as we mentioned earlier, at Quebec. And they are led by Jeremy Hum, who a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away played for the West Coast Eagles. The D's are... they've always been a team that has always been sort of middling in Division 2, but I like them as a little bit of a dark horse here.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about Boston. I've heard they've really come on. So they're one of the teams that I was going to look at to see if they were going to squeeze into Division 1 at the bottom. But they've, you're talking back in the late 1990s, they were the best team in the country.
Yeah, they were two-time national champions in 98 and 99. Those are their only two national championships, and I'm going by memory off of that. I'm sure, again, somebody will correct me. The third seed in Pool B, the Chicago Swans. We talked about last year when we did this. They're a fairly inconsistent club. They went on the road and lost to Minnesota at Madison, but led by some good players. Alistair McGashin's side with Stu Nickel and a number of other guys. This is a team that always comes in and you never know what you're going to get out of them.
Yeah, and they're doing a good job recruiting. They've got some good Americans. They've got another kid they just sent down to us for the Denver camp that's only played like 2 or 3 games, and he went out there and played like he's been playing for 10 years. So they're doing a great job recruiting Americans, so it'll be interesting to see how they do.
Final seed in Pool B, rounding out the field, the Minnesota Freeze. Now, the Freeze have been without Tiger Werner this year, who he has just welcomed in a baby. But a number of very good players, of course, over the years. And really what's been great in watching them, Tommy, is you look at, this is Brent Fisher, Brent Mergen, and a number of other players who they really have cultivated. And this, too, is a mostly American side with some Aussie accents.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of those guys played in Australia. So I expect them, if they travel as well as I hope they do, they'll make some noise in that division.
So here are the 8 teams, again, repeating Pool B: Calgary, Boston, Chicago, and Minnesota. We had a little bit of a surprise last year. I think everyone was talking about how Houston was going to get up there last year, and Columbus, and of course it ended up being Quebec and Sacramento. I think that both divisions are going to be fairly wide open.
I think so. We'll see.
We'll see what happens. Nope, not at all. So those are the Division 2. We're going to move right over to Division 3, and we begin in Pool A with the defending Division 3 national champion Portland Steelheads. The Steelheads electing to stay down in Division 3. Again, the distance may have something to do with that. But saw them play this year, and I know you were out to the Western Regionals. They went 0-2, having lost both games, but still some very good players, including, of course, their leader, Martin Coventry, who I believe has played about 1,500 USAFL games. Maybe not, but they did get a big win at the end of the season against Seattle. At Portland, this is a team over the last couple of years that has really surged, Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, we played them back in 2011 at the or 2009. Sorry, 2009 in the grand final. So they've had some great teams. That was a mix with Seattle. So now that they're all separated, it's good to see that you've got Portland, you've got Seattle, and they're both good teams.
I think Seattle beat you guys in 2009.
Nah, we won.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That was actually, I think, one of my favorite grand finals. I remember the roar of the crowd. I keep talking about it, but it was fantastic. So the Portland Steelheads, Division 3, the top seed. The second seed, we have been a while since we've had a combination, and we have a combination here. The Philadelphia Hawks and the reserves from the Baltimore Washington Eagles, even giving the throwback logo on there. The Hawks have been hurting for numbers the last couple of years. However, they still have a pretty good core. John Ginsberg, who just throws himself at the ball. Of course, John Loring, who Tom knows very well. And they're going to have some good reinforcements from Baltimore, Washington. The Hawks, again, a relatively small showing, but with those reinforcements, I think could steal the group here.
Yeah, I mean, you got some really good American players there. I mean, you got McGettigan with Philly. I don't know who Boston's giving them, but good experience. So it'll be interesting to see how they go.
That's Baltimore, Washington, but that's okay. That's okay. The third seed in Pool A, the Fort Lauderdale Fighting Squids, and if memory serves correct, they've only played 2 games during the course of the USAFL season, both against Tampa Bay. They were supposed to play this past weekend. Fort Lauderdale with a couple of good American players to go with their Aussie contingent. They're always a little bit of a surprise package as well. They've dropped down from Division 2 to Division 3 this year.
Yeah, and I always love seeing what those guys are going to come with. You know, what's their shirt's going to be? Are they going to have the belt buckles? They're a good club. Every club goes through it where they don't have as much numbers, so we'll see how they show up. But it's there at home, so we'll see how they go. But you're only a few hours away from home, so they should show up pretty well. We'll see how they go.
Yeah, not too far up I-75, Tom Hecker and company. We'll see how they do this year at Nationals. They were, by the way, they of course had joined with the old Florida Redbacks to make the Division III Grand Final in 2011 as they try to make it back. And rounding out this group, the B team of the Austin Crows. The Crows bringing 45 players at least to Division III. They hadn't had the best of luck in Nationals play, but you're not going to get a pushover.
No, I mean they learned from a good squad. There's nothing better than having that many guys at training. It makes everybody better. So it's just good to see more numbers playing. So that's fantastic.
So there it is: Portland, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, Fort Lauderdale, and the Austin B side in Pool A of Division 3. We head over to the other side, Pool B of Division 3, the top seed, the North Carolina Tigers, the 2014 Division 4 national champions, Peter Capozzello and company. They've got a couple of very good Australians who basically look like Nat Fife. The Tigers are a team that have always been a middling team in the East, and I think they're starting to creep up on some of the other teams this year. They put up a very good 1-1 performance in Division 2 at the Eastern Regionals this year.
Yeah, they're one of the teams I have not seen play this year, so I'm really interested to see them play and see what the American side has so we can see for the Revolution.
See how they travel as well. They're not terribly far from home, just a flight down from Raleigh and the surrounds. So we'll see how the Tigers do as the top seed in Pool B. Second seed are the Seattle Grizzlies. We were just talking about the Max DePina and company have really grown over the past couple of years. Hey, they beat Portland twice, including at the Western Regional Championships this year, and came within 1 point of beating Sacramento. The Grizzlies doing a fantastic job. Matt Wood is one of their big ruckmen, not to be confused with Matt Wood in Boston, but got to like the Grizzlies getting back into Division 3.
Yeah, fantastic effort for them guys. I mean, that is a long trip. So, but they've got some great players. I'm really looking forward to see Max play again. I've seen him in a couple camps, and he just keeps getting better every time I see him.
Alex Jessup is another guy who's back there who's really come on and really impressed us at the Western Regional. Another team from the West Coast that has improved, the Division 4 defending national champions, the San Diego Lions. This was a team that was a perennial Division 1 side. They slowly fell down the ladder. They've had piecemeal teams over the last couple of seasons, but by gum, they've had a good season. They came in third as a standalone team in the Scaffold this year. They beat Orange County a couple of times, and they gave LA all they could handle.
Yeah, that's really good to see. I mean, they were one of the greatest clubs in the country. 2006 when they won it, Freddie from that team is actually in Denver And I just spoke to him, so I'll be talking to him again later tonight. I'm sure he'll be happy to hear they're on their way up.
Indeed, and I think they were in the top 20 at one point as well, as was Seattle, who finished at number 20. And rounding out, we have another divided team. These are two B-sides put together: the New York Magpies and Boston Demons, two teams that know each other very well. They'll join forces. Their reserve sides will, and I have to think they'll make a little bit of noise in this group.
Now, they probably are going to have a lot of good, talented players coming from those big cities. Probably a lot of the Australians that don't make the D1 is going to get in some games there, so could be very interesting.
Yeah, and as Division III always is, and it's funny because they always talk about, well, it's a lower division, but it's always a very, very entertaining package. So here it is in Pool B: North Carolina, Seattle, San Diego, and the combination of New York and Boston. Again, a pretty wide open competition. You'd have to think that Portland is going to be a favorite, and I wouldn't say an all Cascadia grand finals out of the cards.
Yeah, I mean, with the teams, you just don't know what you're going to get at these levels. Who shows up, how they travel, what the numbers are. Are they going to play 16s? Are they going to play 18s? What's on the bench? So it's tough to say, but I mean, it's going to be some good football, I think.
It always is. Having played in Division III for a long time with the Philadelphia Hawks, it always is fun to watch. All right, so that is Division III. Now we're going to switch gears and go to Division IV, or Divisions 4 as I spelled it there. Three teams of three pools of three teams each. There's 9 total. Each of the teams will play 2 games on Saturday, so they'll play a round robin. So the pool winners and the best runner-up by percentage, because all the runners-up will most likely be 1-1, if not tied, will advance to the semifinals. And the way the format is working, I believe, is that the wild card team cannot play the team that it played in the group stage. So if the best team of the 3 pool winners is the same as the wild card team, same pool as the wild card team, they can't play in the semifinals. Of course, consolation matches: 5th versus 6th, and 7th versus 8th. So here's a look at the pools, and there are a couple of full teams here. In Pool A, the Tulsa Buffaloes with some players from that Oklahoma City side that is looking to strike out on its own next year. This is in Pool A. As well as the combination of the Nashville Kangaroos, the Indianapolis Giants, and Cleveland Cannons, and the Tampa Bay Football Club, who have been playing under the banner of the St. Petersburg Swans. Tampa Bay bringing 32 players. Obviously, it is in their backyard. This will be their first appearance at Nationals. That's a pretty interesting group of 3 right there.
Yeah, I love Tulsa. And then with Tampa bringing that many guys, you've got Dustin Jones playing for that squad. So that's going to be a tough one to beat.
They are. And, of course, you got Nashville. It'll be interesting to see who they bring. Indy, I believe Shane Branscombe is coming, so he'll be there. And Cleveland will be there as well. In Pool B, the Denver B side will be there as the top seed, the middle seed, or as a combination. Get ready: the Des Moines Roosters, Milwaukee Bombers, the Kansas City Power, and the reserves from the Los Angeles Dragons. Those are 3 teams that have sort of been struggling for numbers in Des Moines, Milwaukee, and Kansas City, but it's good to see them join forces. Kansas City, of course, the one player there in Caleb Doherty. And how about Atlanta and Baton Rouge? And how about that great story of the Baton Rouge Tigers winning both games a couple of weeks ago at home against Atlanta and Houston, just 1 month after those floods.
Yeah, it's really good to see. I know back in 2005, I think we helped them after the hurricane. So it's good to see that people stepped up and helped again to get those guys out to play. So it's another really good story with them. I know the Denver B squad is a lot of the old boys from the old national championships are going to be playing in that game. So it's going to be really fun to watch that. And then that whole mix of squad, there's a lot of young guys in there, so we'll see how they go.
By the way, $3,800 have been raised for the in the GoFundMe for Baton Rouge, and if you want to donate, it's GoFundMe.com/Baton Rouge Tigers, all one word. So that's for Pool B. And Pool C, it'll be the Houston B side, along with the Ohio Valley River Rats dropping down from Division III to Division IV. They've only won 4 Division IV national championships. They came close to winning Division III last year, just fell to Portland in the grand final, and a combination of Golden Gate and Columbus, their reserve sides. Ohio Valley, I think, is a good outside shot here, especially with all those old guys like Jack Jacobs and Matty Soiling, and of course Sleepy Floyd, who's not old, but he's still been around a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and you've got some other young guys on that squad that are coming out. You got Nick Bowman that came out for the Revolution, just kind of showed up, and he's looking really good.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough one right there.
Yep, it's going to be a very interesting group. So those are the 9 teams that will contest Division 4. So those are the 4 divisions. We're going to run through really quickly the divisions. Quickly looking at Division 1: Austin, Los Angeles, Denver, and Quebec in Pool A. Pool B, it'll be New York, Golden Gate, Orange County, and Dallas. Division 2, it'll be Sacramento, Houston, Columbus, and Baltimore, Washington in Pool A. Pool B, it'll be Calgary, Boston, Chicago, and Minnesota. In Division 3, Pool A, Portland, a combination of Philly and the Baltimore, Washington reserves. Fort Lauderdale and the Austin reserves. In Pool B, it'll be North Carolina, Seattle, San Diego, and a combination of the New York and Boston B sides. So that's pretty much it. Tom, before we let you go, we know that you and your staff have been working very, very hard over the last really year and a half since you took over to pin down your team, not only for IC-17 next year, but for the tour of Europe, or the trip to Europe that you're looking at. What has that journey been like?
It's been exciting. I've gotten to go out and first see a lot of guys that I haven't seen in a long time starting to get back involved with the league. I saw a lot of really good, solid coaching all around the league to see everybody being taught correctly, and it's really made the whole league better. And I've also seen at these camps we've had over 125 guys show up, and we're going to narrow that down to 60. But to see that much love for the sport has been awesome. So I'm excited as I can be. It's been a really, really good season.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and it was fantastic watching the boys play in Philadelphia back in August. And one of the comments that we had among a couple of the spectators, and I even noticed this, was that this is the fittest, and I think this is one of the strongest teams that have worn the Revolution jumpers. Is that really what you're building your team around?
Yeah, I mean, we are going out, and we want to be at AFL levels as close as we can get. So we're pushing the fitness level as high as we can get it. And you got to remember, too, the Philly camp, there was not everybody there. There was only 27 players there. And we saw 120. So imagine that kind of level all across the country getting better and better. And I'm as excited as I can be to see what happens when we name these 60. We're going to name 60 at Nationals. We'll have another camp in April. We'll narrow that 60 down to 30. It's going to be really, really exciting to see what those 30 look like. The 30 that don't get named, they're going to go play in Europe the next year. So those guys will get a chance to go out and play some international football. And that's just going to make this league better as we keep doing that.
One of the things that really stuck out to me, Tommy, has been the fact that I think your very first act as a national team coach was to pretty much write an open letter to all of the clubs and all of the coaches, really to the league, and say, we need your help to do this. What has the response been like over the past year and a half?
It's been fantastic. We've gone to, we've been to Philly, we've been to Florida, we've been to Chicago. Everywhere we went, people were helping. We went down to Austin and LA, and all of those coaches were nothing but helpful. All they wanted to do was help. I get emails all the time from coaches letting me know how their players are doing. And so on that side of it, it's exciting. It's easy to do when you've got people that love this game as much as all of us do. So it's super easy to get this kind of of excitement and numbers showing up and the pushing each other. It's been exciting.
Yeah, and it's been very exciting to watch as this whole 2016 season has been. Tom, thanks you so much for joining us again this year. We're glad that we could actually hear you. We did have a little bit of a stumble in the beginning, but I figured out how to raise the level, so we did hear you for most of the last 90%. I think we heard you. So really quickly, for anyone, if you want more information about Nationals, go to our website, usafl.com/nationals/2016. We have such great stuff planned, including the Coaches Clinic hosted by the great Dermot Brereton and also Hawks Premiership player Chris Whitman. Be very interesting to see what they think of footy in the U.S., having been around the game for as long as they have. And of course, you can follow us right here on Facebook at facebook.com/USAFL and on Twitter and Instagram at USAFL1997. Tommy, I will see you in Florida.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Everybody really does appreciate the work you put into this. I know a lot of people are excited to hear what you're going to say, so I can't wait to get down there.
Oh, God, I'm excited to hear what I'm going to say. By the way, we are looking right now at having, we're going to be announcing it soon, our streaming coverage this year, not only for the men's, but for the women's. We are still finalizing that. It'll be, of course, Grilla will be there along with myself, and we'll have Peter Holden from girlsplayfooty.com to handle the women's coverage. And, of course, speaking of the women's, we'll have the women's next week after they are announced. The Women's Association is still working very, very hard and very diligently on putting a format together. So that's going to do it for us. We will have all of this published soon because I'm sure you guys will want to see it in written form. Until then, for Tom Ellis, this is Brian Barrish. Everyone, have a great night.